3, 36, 1,095, 26,280, 1,576,800. How is best to break down how long it's been since Kieran left us? He was on the cusp of turning 19, and it was supposed to be the year that we made up for lost time. When I set off for university in York, we'd been talking about the yearly New Year's bash, and how we were able to do so much now that he was better, and that he'd finally turned 18 in August. August and September weren't exactly the most hectic months of our lives, and we had all time in the world to drink and be merry now. We didn't get that chance. To drink, sure. The first weekend that he called me with the news that I was back in Hyington. And the first place that he dragged me was the Georgian Dragon. And he strolled over to our table with a fruity cider in hand, and I remember asking him if drinking was wise right now. He said something to the effect of, "It's not like it's going to kill me." He often did speak candidly about the cards that he'd been dealt, as if the knowledge of his fate made him far less concerned than the rest of us, as we grappled with knowing that there would be no bouncing back this time. The selfish prick. Fast forward to Boxing Day, and we were sat in the box of a Newcastle game, watching the Magpies have their arse served to them on a silver platter by Sheffield fucking Wednesday of all teams, getting slowly pissed on the open bar and trying in vain to line our stomachs with the complimentary cheese boards as the game moved into injury time. We barely talked about why we'd been able to get the box seats in the first place. I think I was half in denial, and I think I was half ignorant about what was going to come next. And I think he just wanted a night at the footy. Reality can be a lot more sobering than a cheese board. I didn't get to see Kieran again until Easter. I'd let myself get caught up in uni, and the big picture didn't resurface until I'd gone home at the end of the term. And I remember when he got sick the first time, my mum told me, try not to look shocked when you see him, when his hair fell out from the chemo. And then me and his mum played slapsy on the back of his bald head. It had been a little bit surprising for sure, but that's all it was. It was a little surprising. He was still my friend, and it wasn't like I'd never seen a bald person before. It was like, you know, I'm related to baldies. Some of my best friends are bald. But she didn't remind me before I visited him on Easter. He was bedbound at the time, and he was practically a skeleton with his skin shrunk around his bones. You could see his little heart beating through his hollow chest, and when he saw my face, he asked me if he really looked that bad. I told him that he'd never looked better, and we laughed. That was my takeaway from Kieran. He had a never-ending, indomitable, and brilliant capacity for joy. His smile was the most infectious you had ever seen, and he had an eternal twinkle in his eye that made it oh so obvious he was up to no good. He never was. Where he went, mischief followed, which was why it pissed me off that people heralded him as this golden child so often after he got sick. He wasn't. And he wasn't perfect. He was rude, petty, argumentative, deceptive, and he would leap to conclusions at the drop of a fucking hat. He was a normal person. He had hopes and dreams and plans and flaws, and he made mistakes. And yet, he was a friend to me. He was a friend to so many of us. That is how I choose to remember him. Not as the second coming of Christ. Not as this fictionalised version of him that people talk about at parties, because that wasn't him. I remember him as my friend. I remember him as a human. And I remember him as the most fucking human that I will ever know. I want to be selfish for a minute and talk about what I regret. That Easter was the last time that I saw Kieran alive. After talking for a while, we did what we always did. We turned on the Xbox. We were going to play some COD Zombies, but we couldn't get the download to work, so we ended up booting Minecraft up. Well, I ended up booting Minecraft up. He laid in bed, the selfish prick. And we played and we built until he fell asleep, and it was only mid-afternoon, but it wasn't unexpected. He didn't have much energy around that time, though he had enough energy to yell downstairs for a sandwich. I didn't leave straight away, though. I think I stayed up there for about another half an hour, looking for a mountain with a view of the world that we had at our feet. And at the peak, I left my screen looking at a sign that said, "I'll see you soon, mate." At the time, that made sense. Summer term was just over a month long, 6 weeks maybe, and there wasn't need to take a leave of absence, I thought. Soon I would be done with university and I would be able to say my proper goodbyes. At the end of the summer term, I should have figured that something was wrong when my mum picked me up. She was frantic, almost, hurrying and rushing me so that we would just get on the road. And it wasn't until we were moving that she told me that Kieran had been put onto morphine, that he was in the last stages of palliative care. Once we were back, I didn't unpack my bags. I just went round the corner and knocked on the door, and his mum answered teary-eyed and asked, "How did you know?" Kieran had died in the early hours of that morning. I was one day too late to say that proper goodbye. One day. It's 24 hours. It's 1,440 minutes. It's 86,400 seconds. It's an inconsequential amount of time that I had spent celebrating the end of term. And I don't think I will ever forgive myself for that. We went upstairs and we were in the room with him. His mum, his sister, my mum and me. And he seemed at peace this time. He wasn't suffering. His body wasn't causing him pain anymore. And his mum asked me if I was all right. And instinctively I replied, "I'll live." There was a moment of quiet. I was horrified at myself that I'd even thought to say this, and then everyone started laughing. And I laughed too. Because Kieran would have found that fucking hysterical. I'd give anything to hear him laugh one more time. I'd give everything that I own to see him smile, and everything that I will ever own to talk with him. I want to be able to reminisce about the old times. I want to talk about how we used to tear around Hyington Village on rusty BMXs and duel with bamboo shoots. I dread to think how many plants we killed in the name of getting the best swords in the village. Rest in peace, Kieran. I miss you. 3. 36. 1,095. 26,280. 1,576,800. 94,608,000. And 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,